Okay, welcome to the Free to Lead podcast. Today's episode is really exploring the leadership of Richard Blanc, and we're talking about journeys of leaders driven by passion, inspired by purpose. And you're going to find today Richard really has had a journey and he is driven by passion, lots of different passions, and I'm sure he's going to enlighten us. So, Richard, welcome. Welcome to the Free to Lead podcast.
I'm so happy to be with you and your audience today. Thank you so much. And I'm definitely going to share my story of my long shot that hit that brought me to one of your favorite places in the world, Costa Rica.
Yes, definitely is. Great. All right, good. Tell us, what was your journey? What was the drive? What pulled you forth, and how did you end up in Costa Rica?
I think we've all grown up in families where there's some serious expectations, scholastic, cultural, tradition. I wanted to break that mold. Don't call me a black sheep. I'm the one that shines. I didn't want to study finance or law or go into medicine, a lot what my friends and family did. I gravitated towards languages, especially when you guys speak Queen's English. How envious am I?
Hmm.
But it was the easier class. I tell you what, Will, whenever you do something above and beyond dedicated practice, like the gym or arts and languages, I knew that I had something. So when it came to that really responsible decision, where you go to school and what you study, I didn't want to feel like a rainy Sunday night cramming session. That would have broken me. I didn't want that sort of pressure. I didn't want to live in that box. So I said, listen, let me be a Spanish major. It might make me marketable. I could get a job. Put "se
Mhm.
habla español" on a business card. My parents thought I was crazy. I said, hold on. My great grandparents came to the United States at the turn of the 20th century. Great grandpa Louis couldn't speak English, moved to New York. Look what he did during the Depression. That's where we made our money. I go, so come on, you got to keep that nomad passion and spirit in you. And if I'm doing it a couple generations later, let's see where the ball can go with this. And so I was a Spanish major in college at the University of Arizona. And then when I was 27 years old, I was given a 1 in a million opportunity. A really good friend of mine owned a center here, and he said, Richie, come down for a couple months and teach some English. Come on, this just like I do. The moment you walk off the plane, you realize you're in paradise, and this place is very special.
Mm.
And I wanted to do whatever I could to stay here. So I worked at my friend's center for 4 years. But here's the smart part. I learned the business from the inside out. I wasn't making top dollars like my friends were back in the day. I was
Yeah,
learning something. I was learning my trade.
that was a call center, right?
It was a call center, not like what in Hollywood. It's more
Mm.
customer support. But I saw these bilingual agents conversing with people and converting calls and using CRM systems. But here's the best part. When you're with the people and you sit in the rows and you get the dirt and the blood and the pain and the sweat, you also hear things, the secrets on what gets somebody to stay at a company or why someone's quitting and bringing 10 people with them. So 17 years ago, when I had my chance to throw my hat in the ring, I was getting older. It's 35, right? Losing my hair. I needed to see if I could make some money. So I started a business, but not like where I am today. Will, this is 17 years later. I started by renting a turnkey station at a blended center, like an internet cafe. Did that for a couple of years. Rented space. I would build out the server room accordingly and row by the computer so I could do it at a pace. Did that for 6 years. And then we purchased this building, put on a third floor, built it out to be a key state-of-the-art center. And here we are. So it's the old story of the tortoise and the hare. If you take your time, you don't drop in the holes, you have reserves, you can weather storms, and you can make it. And
Yeah.
so a lot of it was perseverance, my friend. There were a few setbacks, but come on, you're from London, I'm from Philly. We take our hits and we keep moving forward.
You talk about setbacks. I always say that failure is the biggest lesson. So, what were some of those setbacks and what did you learn?
If you're talking failure in regards to some sort of study or medium, if you didn't make $100 today, you failed. All right, but what happens if I knocked on 1,000 doors, but I still had a spring in my step and I was able to take the rejection? It's like in the gym, you got to do a negative with a positive.
Hmm.
And if you can not laugh at it, joke at it, demean people, patronize, or deflect it, but you absorb it in a certain way that it's just some sort of energy and certain time in the psychological way. I reduced it to the point, my friend, of romantic deaths. My industry, the majority of the calls are hung up on or not converted calls. You don't bat 1,000. You have to dig. It's like panning for gold. So what do? Are you afraid of a gatekeeper? No. This could be your greatest asset to tell you the shortcut to get into the castle or what day to go. And what I try to do is have beautiful 30-second romantic deaths. Why? Because if I can land the intro, I can buy time, readjust tones, and pace that call with checkpoints. It's not a 10-minute call like Glengarry or the Boiler Room. It's not like in the movies. And so if you can control your balance and do a company name spike, like Free to Lead Podcast, how are you today? It's the first thing I'd say if anybody picked up the phone. I am using my anonymity. I get a chance as a first impression to say what you know. I get to do it 100 to 200 times a day. So at least I'm warmed up. I'm not just dialing and waiting for someone to pick up. You're ice cold. What happens? You snap somebody out of it, Will. And then Judy, all of a sudden, instead of saying, we're good, thanks. Is this a sales call? Take me off your list. Don't call again. Or even the greatest, F you. They're going to give you a positive reinforcement. They're going to say, who's this? We got him. Then I'm going to say, my name is Richard Blank. Come on, let's double dip them. I'm not giving the name of the company yet. Then Judy usually say, who is Richard Blank? Great. Company name spike. Double dip twice on we call it a buffer boomerang technique for just readjusting tones. And then you play your card. You give the positive escalation. You go, listen, Judy, I'm calling today to speak to Will. I'm going to let him know how great you are. By the way, I love your company. And so when you give a positive escalation, chances are about 40% of the time they're going to reject it. 60% of the time, it's more than 50. It's a good play. And so when I get transferred to you, instead of saying, oh, hi, Will, or my name is Richard Blank, you got to be kidding me. Hey, this is Will. Hey, Will, I got to let you know, Judy's the greatest. And then you're going to say, that's my wife. That's my daughter. She's been with me for 20 years. And then you'll say, who is this? And I'll look at my watch and I go, Will just gave me 1 minute. Let's just take it easy. Then I'll do the Richard Blank, Costa Rica's call center. Then we start asking open-ended questions. And it's a beautiful dance. It's proper rhetoric. You're not compromising ethics, values, or morals. It gives you balance. So if anything and nothing, and we say in Spanish, por lo menos, at least, you got something out of it. If you leave a really good voicemail, if you write a very detailed due diligence email to someone just to get their attention, that's how you play the game. You got to snap them out of it. And if you can anchor with somebody, you can buy time. So those are the sort of soft skill suggestions that I make to not only my clients, but the agents, to even myself. Because if you need to do this, don't make it a forced march. Make it something that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I can certainly hear the passion in the day-to-day and what you do and your trade in what you're doing. I worked as a registration manager for 8 years, calling people. So I do know some of what you're referring to in some of those kind of calls. And what the question that came up was, okay, you got passion, but what is it that really keeps you going? What is it that pulls you forward? What's the purpose? What context inside of which is it for yourself that you're doing it?
Golden jewels lose its luster. I've made enough money where I'm comfortable on how many dinners can I eat. And I'm not really into the sort of things to compare myself to others like Rolexes and Lamborghinis. That's not my style. I collect pinball machines. My main thing is self-improvement. If I can get up every day and make my bed, be happily married for 24 years still, hit the gym, which I love, walk the rows and try to pay it forward to the freshman as a senior, it's a great life. It's a fun life. And then I have a luxury trade. I get to write. I get to listen to phone calls. I'm not bored. I still have fidelity. I still feel young. And so you can't crack that glass. You have to be very delicate with your life and your time. And so fortunately for me, my really good friend, I chose something that gives me severe satisfaction, and the market speaks. If people have been with me for 15 years, if people come back to work, especially in the call center, and they say, good morning, Jefe, man, I've done something right. Anyone can have $1, any loser and any player. Doesn't mean anything. It's the friendships that you have, or it's the time when you say the right thing, or even sometimes not say anything and just sit next to someone and give them their time. Oh man, I'm 52 years old. Life is flying. I still feel like I'm 17. So I'm trying to do some things today that give me inner peace and not an upset stomach. And if it's not sacrificing, but investing my time where I'm not earning that money at the moment, I might make it back. Why? Because someone might refer me, or they just might say, go, Richard, go, and pay it forward. And so um, leading is all about people wanting to be led by somebody, not just the loudest person at the moment screaming, go this way because we're in a riot or at a concert or something. It's when you have a luxury of a track record and they've seen you during your best and your worst times and they judge your character during that, that's when the people come to you and say, listen, you didn't realize it, but that day when you said ABC, that got me out of this thing. And I was able, and you don't have no idea that you even said it, but you made that impression. And so my leadership to me, my man, is not how many tickets I sell at a concert or where I am on a billboard chart or in the top 500 richest people somewhere. It's that thing when the cameras aren't there, or someone introduces me to their mother and says, this is the best boss I've ever had. I'm like, man, you're going to make me cry. So I think leadership, if it's done in a healthy way where it's preserved, the sanctity of it, and
Yeah.
you like the truth can do it over and over again, you're not just a one trick pony with a 5 spot, then you might have a chance. And
Yeah.
so I hope I was able to explain that to you in my
Let me
deepest
feed back to you
passion.
what I could hear, right? I could hear, yes, there's that passion, but also what I heard was you've made it fun. You've made it fun. You enjoy it. You've made it your thing. And particularly the relationships with people and making that important has certainly, it gives you life. You can hear it.
It's also a lucrative industry. It's not like I'm painting seashells by the seashore. I got
Sure.
very lucky. I saw the money and I
Yeah.
realized it's very employee labor heavy.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can just plug in, leave for 5 months and come back and it's still going. You got to work this thing like a sports team. But the money was incredible. And I realized that if I was able to get good at this, I could potentially, since I started at 35, maybe catch up 10 years worth that I didn't earn from 25 to 35 and see if I can double, triple, quadruple yearly salary by doing as I do now. I haven't earned a salary since, what, 2000?
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
straight commission. I hunt. But then
Yeah.
sometimes you catch the big bear. And then what do? You get bigger,
Yeah.
fatter, and you have some nice fur. But a lot of people don't realize, like a boxer, they see Mike Tyson walk in there and knock him out. What about the 5 months he did training, waking up early and hitting the weights and the diet and the focus? So I enjoy watching people in their moments, but my mind is always about them getting up early and training to get to that moment.
Mm.
If you see it that way, what's behind the curtain, what's in the kitchen? Seriously, the ones that are the long-term players.
Yeah, well, I can hear if it was a football team that you're invested in those people getting better. Yes, there's the money, but that can't be what has you be as good at what you do. It's not just the money. The money is fine to have the money. If you do a good job and you provide a good service, fine, totally great. But you can't have that be the driver. It has to be, okay, that's that, and this is my craft, or this is my raison d'etre.
That's the best stage, the honeymoon stage.
Mm.
When you first start making real money, it's the weirdest feeling in the world. It's like a child that walks into a candy store with $5 and everything's a penny. This is crazy. So what did I do? Besides the investments in the business and the computers, that kind of wasn't fun. So I went out and started collecting pinball machines and jukeboxes and stuff and
Right.
making a great game room. So I was able to fulfill a childhood dream. And
Mm.
fortunately for me, I had the room and it was a perfect medium for this younger generation to try machines they've never done before.
Yeah.
So maybe if you have the money and you invest it or put it where other people can enjoy it, where you buy the pizza for everyone, or when someone does a whole round for the bar, I enjoyed that better. And I didn't want anything in return. And I just wanted to make sure that the environment for the people was the best that they could be because I could afford it.
Yes.
And that was very nice too for leaderships. You don't have to put people in a third class position. Always put them in first class.
Mm.
And it's the way you treat them and the way you treat yourself.
Great. Excellent. Excellent. Just looking at that pinball machine, what's your favorite track? Or and there'll be a 45, yeah, 45 single, right? What's the favorite? What's your favorite? What do you always go to?
I
Is it
always go with In
right?
Excess, Suicide Blonde, my favorite song. But I know what you're thinking. whenever I buy this 1961 Ricola Regis, that I would have a huge cachet of, let's say, Duran, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix. No way. It's all artists from Central America from the 60s and 70s. I got not even La Bamba. So all these people are like, yeah, my mom loves that song. You can have it. But
Yeah.
I had to bring down my own, buy some on eBay and restack them. But I love classic rock, everything back in there. And
Yeah.
I don't really listen to too much music today. It's interesting, but I
Yeah.
really grew up more of the 80s and the 70s and the 60s. If you get me, as I mentioned before, Depeche Mode, In Excess. I love that stuff. I'll put that in there all day long.
Yeah, great. Well, I thought the 60s, being a 60s jukebox, you might have some Beatles on there and Rolling Stones and, you
Of
know,
course you do. CSN, Janice. Of
yeah.
course you put him in there. Joe Cocker, a little bit of him. But the
Oh,
Hendrix, man, that stuff's expensive, trying to find those old 45s that work. And so what some people do, which I will admit, I got my Bluetooth and MP3 in there. I changed out the speakers, of course. I got the originals, I kept them. But as long as the outside is preserved and you got the keys and you can really work with the marquee, it's a beautiful thing to have in your living room. People will love it. Put that next to a pinball machine. You'll be the most popular cat in your neighborhood. Everyone will definitely want to come and hang out.
great. Great. All right, good. What would you say to someone who's started their own business? They're struggling right now. Uh, with all your years of experience in building that business and obviously being quite successful, what would you say to someone who's struggling right now?
Define struggling. Would it be financial, physical? Do they have time? Do they have a wife that's just yelling at them? I don't know. But this is my thing, my friend, is stay the course. You don't
Hmm.
need to do it through leaps and bounds. It's one step without sounding cliche-ish. But if you also have a job, then keep that job. Be responsible. Do something. 80 hours a week is a normal time for a CEO. 40 hours is part-time. So if
Mm.
you could find the evenings and weekends, telling you to go out and if you have trouble public speaking, go to certain places, network. It's easier said than done. So why don't you do the thing that's fun? For an example, when I was
Hmm.
learning Spanish, sitting down and reading was a chore and studying grammar. What was the most fun for me where I could get the most bang for my buck? I would watch a movie in Spanish with Spanish subtitles, or so I could understand the grammar. I could
Yeah.
follow along if there's phonetic noise. Someone's going too fast, I can catch it, I can look it up. So I think what you might need to do is focus on certain areas of the 10, focus on which one you need to focus on, then work on it, then move to the others and dabble in the ones you hate the most, like doing laundry or ironing. Still got to do it a little bit every now and again. And so you'll see that it will go, because if you're judging everything on all those 10 aspects, you should be frustrated. It's terrible. But in the business Olympics, if you're crushing it in 2 events, then milk those 2 events and use
Mm.
that momentum to go into something else. And also, I'm going to say, you need to put your pride aside. I hired a CTO, accountants, attorneys. I don't know all this stuff. Don't pretend like I do.
Yeah.
So you might need to bring in a specialist or ask somebody's opinion and do it old school way. Take the notes, take your
Great.
meeting minutes
Hmm.
and see what you can do there. But don't be hard on yourself. Use diplomatic and strategic vocabulary for people. Don't give ultimatums. Ask for clarifications. See when is the most convenient time for somebody. Do your due diligence when you follow up with them so you can anchor and maybe reduce any sort of doubt that puts you in the basket of all the people that are just trying to pitch their business. And so I tell you what, I mentioned romantic deaths before. It's the purest thing I did because I didn't do anything wrong. I said free to lead podcast. I said hello to Judy. I introduced myself and my company, and I was letting Judy know that Will is going to know how great she is. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? I did nothing wrong. And so
Yeah.
just in my industry, because most of your people are not telemarketers, my mindset is if I can handle that 1 to 200 times a day, guess who's jumping clouds? Me. I didn't go into the contracts, the rebuttals, the 7th minute in, answer. We're not even there yet. Lay in
Mm.
the intro, you're not even going to have anything. I'm going to say
Yeah.
something else. If they love you, put the checkbook away. It's not even a sales call anymore. They're
Mm.
giving you the business. So
Yeah.
the stress comes from yourself. You're giving
Mhm.
yourself that sort of resistance by being way too hard on yourself. And so make your bed, damn it, so you can show that sort of self-respect. You should be able to look at yourself in the mirror and give yourself 5 every now and again, because Will Steele, that's a pretty cool thing to do. And then finally, reach out to gentlemen like you and me, and on the sly, tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly, and maybe someone can give you some sort of direction. And that's my only advice for you and your amazing audience today.
Awesome. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time then, Richard?
Totally retired and writing children's books. That's what I'm going to do.
All right. All right. It's been great having you on the show. Thank you so much. And really a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Wonderful times. Cheers, my friend.
Great. Thank you.